because together we evolve. Together we may learn something.
People and groups, and that's awesome. I'm excited.
All right, welcome everybody to the Access 360 podcast, hot off a new video created by our virtual assistant Harold. We've been upgrading and updating that, and hopefully it's getting better and better. We've got a special edition today, unplanned, unscripted, trying to figure out what we're going to do here, but we want to demonstrate a little bit of what we do here at AVS, which is find great business leaders and find great virtual assistants, bring them together and figure out how we can partner and evolve together. So first off, Arthur, what did you think of the intro video? How did it land for you?
It was engaging, and I liked how you had a couple relevant sound bites, but you created a lot of curiosity. So I was like, okay, I need to hold on a little longer to find out what's going on.
Yeah, good. And what do you do in the world, just so the world knows if the world decides to tune into this conversation?
What do I do in the world? I have a good time as a dad, as a husband, and as a real estate wealth advisor. So we're out there with people all the time.
Amazing. Yeah, we've come to know each other, connected in a number of different ways so far, and so it's good to have you here today in this conversation. And Miraflor, I'm going to bring you in because you have some expertise in the real estate space, the administrative executive space, and what do you do in the world? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I've been in the real estate VA for about 5 years. So I'm very much happy assisting my clients from admin to transaction and then with their marketing as well. So yeah, that's how I work and my VA world turns around during this time.
Amazing. Well, good to have you here. And so just for anybody who ends up tuning into this conversation in the future, what we're doing is at Access, we find incredible people in the Philippines and abroad and connect them with incredible people like Arthur locally in the US and in Florida, and then see if there's a fit. So this is almost like the fit game because Arthur's going to have a conversation with Miraflor and it's going to be an interview, but we're not going to do that live. So Arthur, Miraflor, I'm going to put you guys into the breakout room. And then when you guys are done, you can come back and you won't know what we're talking about. We won't know what you're talking about, but it'll get sorted out. How does that sound? Good?
That sounds great.
Yes.
Just make sure Miraflor is not too hard on me on the interview.
I heard she's tough. I heard she's tough. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I will open the rooms. We'll see you when we see you. Sound good? All right.
Great.
You guys can jump in there. And then Tony, how did this go? How do you think we're doing here? Miraflor, you can hit join, I think, on the there we go. Everybody's in the room. Tony, what'd you think about all that? Was that a little weird?
I think it's great. It gives the audience also kind of what we actually do and a little bit of the process where they can see the client, they got the candidate, they see them come together, they see that there's an interview going on, and it's just great. You have somebody that's needing needs, they have needs, and somebody that's there to meet the needs as long as everything goes okay. And, a lot of times they do. So hopefully it's a good partnership, and I love being able to share that with the world.
Amazing. Brian, what do you think about all this madness on a Friday morning?
Well, I'm not a choir boy like yourself, so I've seen a lot of weird things in my life. So it's going to take a lot to move that needle for me. So I thought it was great.
And it looks like it's a little cold where you are. Is that true?
Just a little bit. This morning was something special. Once the sun is out, I'm good. It's really just the morning and the night that are really special.
Special in what way? Tell us about the special.
This morning I woke up at 5 a.m., went to the gym, and Google said it felt like 14 degrees. So that was pretty special.
And that's 14 Fahrenheit, so below 32, clearly below 32.
Yeah, it was cold. It was very cold.
Cool. Well, I thought today the conversation could be a little bit real estate, a little bit business, a little bit how we optimize some of our business. But Brian, you've been working in terms of building some business development with a virtual assistant as well. So do you want to give a little thought behind your strategy there, how you're approaching building, using, and leveraging?
Absolutely. So I'm working on a few things, but they're all real estate related. And I'm having him make calls. And basically, the way I'm doing it is, a lot of cold calling is people not answering, people not interested. Half the battle is just making sure you have the right number because it's a cold call, right? It's being skip traced and things like that. So really, if he can get somewhere and move the ball, that's amazing. But even if he can't, and he could just say, "Hey, this is John Smith's number," that's a win for me. So either way you slice it, it's good.
And so how are you, like, what's the active campaign? Because some people, and the reason why I'm maybe being a little bit obvious or dumbing it down a little bit is somebody might be like, how would I use somebody to do reach out for me? Because somebody might have never done I had that question literally earlier this week from someone who has a roofing company, and she said, I don't know what cold calls are. Like, I've heard about them, I heard I should be doing them, but I really like don't even know what that means. So do you want to give a little of like the
Yeah.
very simplified background strategy about it?
Yeah, it's amazing because when you're in any business or any industry, things that are very obvious, things that are very kindergarten for you are just unknown for other people, right? And it's like almost like buying a helicopter, right? Like you wouldn't even know what questions to ask because you have never flown or, owned a helicopter. So cold calling is just cold outreach is just you don't know the person and they don't know you. They haven't clicked, they haven't seen an ad, you don't know them from Adam. And so you're just reaching out. Usually you're getting their number from public record. Usually you have some kind of criteria that you're looking for. Maybe they're in the roofer's case, right? It would be homeowners that have owned their home more than X amount of years because a roof only lasts X amount. So if the house was built in, let's say, 1980 and or 1990, depending on the location, then okay, maybe this is a good time to reach out to these people. And then you could just get a whole area of people. And then what happens is when you do something called skip tracing, which is get people's phone numbers, you're getting many phone numbers. So just for example, and this probably happens to people also, like I get phone calls looking for my father, I get phone calls looking for my brother, vice versa, because it's all connected. In this case, I have a giant family plan, so we're all connected. Some addresses are intertwined. So you don't know which one is the correct cell phone. You don't know which one is the correct home number. So you have to make these calls in order to figure out what number is the accurate number.
Yeah, so I did this on a past episode. And so maybe what we'll do in this conversation is like at a base level, how would we build out, and let's use the roofing company as the example. How would we build out a strategy for lead generation for a roofing company? I think at a base level, you've got to create a database of ideal clients that you want to reach out to. So sometimes that's a unique, you either buy the list or it's a unique individual who can build the list internally. We just hired a VA for AVS to build an internal list that we're going to then market to. So once you've got your list, then you've got to market, and that could be email campaigns or phone calls, texts, cold outreach. I'm going to pause here because Tony, you've been doing some of this
Yeah.
as well. Where are you coming in on the process? What do you want to add in here?
Yeah, so cold calling, kind of like Brian hit on, it's literally cold calling for a reason. It's cold, you don't know them, they don't know you. I think consistency is key. You have a lot of gatekeepers out there. So I have like a little script that I use specifically for gatekeepers. But after that, it's kind of like he said, you're trying to find what they need and how you're going to meet that need, because obviously your company would have the ability to meet that need. And a lot of times, like I heard it once said, people love to buy, but they don't love to be sold, right? So at the end of the day, it's making sure that you can build some kind of trust in the beginning, even if it is cold, even if it is through an email. And then once you kind of grow on that, starts to become warmer and warmer. But a lot of times, they're not going to give you the time of day, or a lot of times the secretaries that I find, they just hang up. They're some of the worst people I've ever seen. I mean, I would have fired a lot of people. Like, just when I'm listening to people, I'm just like, wow, you represent your company the worst way I've ever seen in my life. Like, I get it. You probably get a million phone calls. a day and stuff, but just to at least be nice to be able to say, hey, they're busy. I've been, told not to be able to do that, but here's an email or whatever the case may be. But sometimes you get people that literally make a bad representation of the company where in my head, when I call them, like, if I ever need that, like I note it, I'm never going there ever in my life, just because of that representation. So you're going to get a lot of different people. I've also seen very caring people. So it's one of those things where you strike up conversations, you take advantage of the ones that you're able to kind of get a foot in the door and even conversate. I just talking to one guy and he just started telling me about how long he was in business, how long he was doing it, how he had the same team. He wasn't interested. He's like, I love what you're doing with the virtual staffing thing. And I definitely will keep it in mind, but I've literally worked with the same people I hired when they were like 18, 19, 20, and it's going on like 35 years. And we just had a good conversation and it was really cool, and just for him to, just be nice and talk and everything else. And then sometimes you can get into, like I said, gatekeepers and tactics of how you can get around those things. I finally started using one and it was working quite a bit. But even then, you're getting answer machines, you're getting all kinds of stuff where you're still not getting to the decision maker, which is ultimately the number one thing you want to do.
And I just want to say to clarify, there's a difference between calling regular people versus calling corporations, right? So sometimes it's going to be B2C, sometimes it's going to be B2B. So if it's a roofing company, it could be both, right? Roofing, you could be fixing a roof of a building, you could be fixing a roof of grandma down the block. So it could be a mixture of both. And then what I like to do, so I don't like the whole gatekeeper thing. What I like to do is I like to skip trace and get their cell phone. So like if I know that John Smith is the CEO, I'd rather, I mean, listen, it depends how badly I want them. But for something like a roofing company, because that's what you said we should analyze, like I don't want to waste so much time. I'd rather get their cell phone number, maybe even get someone in their family cell phone number and really work it that way and just totally go around all that.
So let's do this because I'm going to go into the breakout and just make sure everything's happening okay with the interview. But what are some of the things, like if I'm a intro to lead gen from both a building of my database to actually doing the reach outs, what do I need to get right? And what do I need to avoid doing that would like just cause me like a waste of time? So I'll leave it to you guys to start that if you want to kick it off, Brian, like because you're building some stuff for yourself as well. Like what do you need to do to build the right connection points? And then what do you need to do right to get the process started? And I'm going to go into the breakout and
Sure.
see how this is all going.
Like we're having our addendums. So yeah, that's how we do. And then after that, if we have everything cleared, and then we have also the clear to close from the lender. So I think that's the time that we are clear to close. And yeah, after that we are having party because we are now closing a transaction.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you know the process really well. Is it how many listings would you say would come in a month?
Oh, that's really a lot.
Yeah.
Because when we have the listing and then the other listing went under contract and then the other listing closes. So oh my God, it's really maybe I work max of 15 for that particular. Yeah, that's really a lot. It's really a kind of, a busy team.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
So
I don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to check in. How's everything going in here? Are you guys in good shape?
she's being hard on me, but I'll make it. I'll make it.
You'll make it? Okay. All right. Anything I need to know or help with? Or we're
No,
good?
thanks for asking, but I don't think so.
All right. I'll be in the main room. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Different because for me, it's like I need to make a lot of calls per day, right? It's like trying to just get our name out there, try to get people to know that we're available, that we're here. So there's like this numbers game. But for him, he's one of those that are like, network is your net worth. So he's like, if you need a certain niche that you're going after, he's like, just shoot somebody an email. And he said this even when you're like trying to get jobs and positions, when you're in, as a financial analyst or whatever, because that's more of the realm he's in. But he was like, just talk to somebody, send somebody to LinkedIn, say, hey, I'm looking to get into this place, or I'm looking to gain more knowledge in this space that you're actually in. Would you like to do some coffee? And he's like, 90% of the time, people are going to say yes, unless they're like super extremely busy. And he's like, then when you start talking to them and you're sitting down with them, or just even now you could do Zoom calls. But he's like, as you do that, you're building relationships naturally. And he's like, that's when you start firing away when it comes to sales, marketing, everything else. But he loves LinkedIn. He's like, make sure you always pay for the thing. I never do for the expensive thing, but he always told me, he's like, you need to just get the whole thing. And he goes, it's the best way to do it. So
Yeah,
I
I
yearn for
like
that
that.
day.
I like that.
Yeah. I yearn for the day where I'll be able to do that. Right now, I'm trying to do more of the numbers thing where it's just getting our name out there, right? But eventually, it's like, it's all built on relationships at the end of the day. People want to trust you. And when they trust you, they'll buy from you. And when they trust you even more as the buy and purchase continues, they're going to remain with you. There's going to be a high level of retention because it's like a family now, and you've actually hung out together and everything else.
The way I look at it is I always say everyone's a tough guy behind the keyboard, right?
Mm.
So, like half the comments on, let's say, Facebook, like no one would ever say that to me in real life, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's humanizing. You have to humanize yourself. You have to humanize the connection. That's why hold on, I was thinking about something that was really good with what you were saying. Oh, so like a good way to do that, which is a version of what you're saying, is send people a video.
Yeah. That
I think
works
getting
very
away
well.
from text, it's like easy to say no. When I say everyone thinks they're a tough guy, it's easy to say no. Even to a voice now, people are very used to getting phone calls. So it's like if you have their cell phone number, if you have their email, just do a video. Like we're on video right now. Hey Tony, it's Brian. I just reached out to you. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to offer. I just want to give you a couple of pointers or whatever it might be. ABC, hit me up. I mean, just that alone is different. Like many people aren't doing it. Give a little bit something about yourself, like always try to humanize. Hey, I have a
Yeah.
6-year-old son. He's into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Whatever it is, it's like that it just makes you more and more human.
And just to
How about
piggyback on what you said, my mentor also said that too. He's like, when you look them up, you find out what they like, right? They may like baseball, they may like this. He's like, so
That's
now you're
great.
already armed with the things to be able to talk about, at the end of the day. And people unfortunately have been programmed in a sense to just shut down because the old ways of selling ruined a lot of stuff. Even to this day, you still see the remnants or the vestigials of the corruption that happened back then, where people were so used to saying no, click, no, click because of the way it was back then. But times have changed and people are more educated, and salespeople, if they're
Mhm.
doing it right, they're actually more relational at the end of the day. And we still got to overcome some of the things that happened in the past, unfortunately.
I have
David?
a quick question. When I left, did the recording say it stopped, or did it still say it was still recording?
It said it was still recording.
Yeah, I still
Interesting.
see recording. Yeah.
Interesting. We'll find out because I went into the breakout room and it said recording in the breakout room. So we'll see. We'll see how this all.
It's going to be a
all
package deal. You're going to get different angles.
yeah, this could be real interesting how this all plays out. Great. I did my first door knocking, commercial door knocking, on Tuesday afternoon. And I've walked into places and struck up conversations before, but this was like let's go to this area and go from storefront to storefront to storefront and look to have conversation. So that was great. And I went with my friend David. So what was cool, I think, and this is something to think about too, is when you have partnership in some of these efforts, it becomes a little bit easier. And I think you can create that in a call center, but you could also create that when you're going door to door. Because like I'm virtual staffing, he was a print business, like printing marketing materials and things like that. But we just started this shtick of David and David, and it became something that evolved as we did it. So I think some of cold calling and some of lead gen is doing a bunch of stuff, but then figuring out what's working, what's not working, how to get past the gatekeeper, how to maybe not even deal with the gatekeeper. As Brian said, it's like there's an evolution to your game and your process. But where did I miss anything, or where do you guys want to pick this up?
No, that was great. The one
Love
thing I
it.
use with gatekeepers, if I do it, I usually say, hey there, I know you're the air traffic controller, crisis manager, and gatekeeper all rolled into one. I'm not here to sell you anything, just trying to figure out who the best person to speak to would be when it comes to maybe extra hands on deck, right? Like that would be specifically for our business, and so when they do that, they'll laugh or they'll giggle. So a lot of times that disarms them. So that's one little tip. If you're funny, it usually helps, and at least it gets you to the next thing. And sometimes it still gets you to a voicemail, or I'll leave a message, but that was so funny, but it does bring it down because you're joking around as the air traffic controller and crisis manager and gatekeeper rolled into one. That always seems to help.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you listen to the old school Wall Street, Bud Fox, like that's the ultimate
Yeah.
gatekeeper, right? And even though people want to say sales has moved and people are used to or not used to whatever, psychology hasn't changed. So
Yeah.
I feel that a lot of the old stuff still does work. Maybe you have to present it in a different way, but the
Yeah.
fact is, it's like, with the gatekeeper stuff, to go off the Bud Fox thing, it's the difference between trying to get a one night stand versus trying to go into a relationship.
Right.
And with the first time, they're not going to take you seriously. They're not going to know who you are. The second time, maybe not either. But if you keep following up and if you keep going for it, eventually they're going to say, you're going to differentiate yourself because, okay, this is not just a one hit wonder. This is not someone just trying to get in my pants. This is someone who's different. And that
Right.
itself is going to give you the altitude to keep getting into that door. I think that's really, I think Bud Fox nailed it.
Bud
Yep.
Fox,
I
throwback,
agree.
Wall
Yeah.
Street. Love it.
Wall Street.
Let's take the roofer example in building out, like if I'm building the roofing company in Palm Beach, how would I build my database? Like how would I find, like would I take a specific location and say this is where I'm going to target first? How do I find those that contact information so I can set up the call system, and maybe that's a virtual assistant that's making the phone calls. But Brian, what would you recommend if we were trying to go, business to consumer in this case,
Right.
or
Yeah.
a
So,
roofing company?
no, no doubt. So, I mean, obviously, it's going to be certain locations, right? He's not going to go to Miami in this case if you're talking about West Palm Beach, unless he has another location. So, it's definitely going to be a specific area. For the roofing thing, of course, it's going to be people that have owned their house for a certain amount of time. How old the house is, right? Like, how old the house is very important because a roof lasts, let's say, like the Spanish tiles in Florida, I think last a little bit longer than the roofing here, but let's say start with 30 years because people that use the same thing with what we were just talking about with the gatekeeper, right? You call John Smith, no, I don't need a roof right now. Okay, well, if you keep following up on every holiday and you keep following up, when he has a leak, who do you think he's going to call? you know so I think that starting with that, if you have a lot of people on the field, if you have jobs, right? If you're not starting from scratch, then as the people are driving around, have them send addresses or pictures of houses that obviously the roofs are old, right? Especially if you're in an area, like have them go around a certain radius, like as part of their job, and look at the roofs that need help. And now you can call them and say, hey, John, yeah, I'm doing Jimmy's roof over on Cooper Street. I was in the area. I see that your roof, is not in the best shape. I want to know if I could just show you what I could do for you. So I think that because now all of a sudden it's even better because you're linking it to someone else who's already using you.
I think one of the key strategies you're pointing to is like leverage your team to be on the lookout and actually help you build a database based on the physical observation of what's going on out there. And then I think beyond that, if you're going to do a volume game, you got to figure out a way to build contact information of local residences and figure out when the build was of the original house so that you can get to that 20 or 30 year mark of wear and tear, so to speak.
And another, big strategy is sponsoring events, becoming a person of the town. And when you sponsor events, you do certain things, then you could introduce yourself. Oh, hi, this is ABC Company. We just sponsored the West Palm Beach charity event over last week for Thanksgiving. We're calling people in the area to see maybe if even you don't need a new roof, maybe someone that you know needs a new roof. We're trying to do the right thing for people, something like that.
I think that leads into the story we tell when we do make the phone call. So if you're doing some great stuff in the community, even if the person doesn't want to buy a roof or needs a roof at that particular time, it's, hey, just want to let you know, like we're doing this and this in the community. We're checking in with all the local residents. We're happy to help when the time is right. If you did need to do some repairs to your roof or get a new roof in general, like where are you at? Where are you at in the process? How's your roof? Kind of thing. Yeah. Um, Tony, anything that you would add to like the build of the database? 'Cause I know you've been doing some database building in terms of
Yeah.
our own staffing business. Anything that comes to mind in terms of like what if somebody's just really starting out, how do you start to build that database?
I think it's first understanding where you're at as a company. So, for some, it's going to be, we just need to get our name out there, let people know, because you see that it works. You see that, especially like for our business, everybody really needs a virtual assistant. And when they get them, they usually want like two or three or, because they go in so many different realms. So you're seeing, wow, this helps so many companies. But at the end of the day, it could be just, we need just a lot of names and we need to just tell people about us, try to build connections, try to get relationships going. But at other times, like really what I would normally say is the best way to do it is slow, like get the most powerful ones, like, and ours would be like, look for people that are hiring, right? So sometimes I'd go on Indeed, you're looking at Indeed, oh, we're hiring an accountant or we're hiring somebody for Xactimate or whatever. But you're looking at Indeed and seeing people for our specific business anyway, and they actually have a need. They're actually paying money to Indeed to say, hey, we have this need. And so when you can make a list specifically for that, it's going to be a stronger list, right? But does it work? Well, it doesn't work if you're time conscious. It doesn't work when you have to go look that up, do research, find the people, find this position, then call them up. You got to look at their website, get their number. So you're now going to push, what you could do 50 calls into maybe 6 calls that are, and you have to weigh out which one's best. But if you're already a known company, then yeah, you can actually do that. If you're already built and kind of things are going like a well-oiled machine, then yeah, you want to do the thing that's going to be the most productive or the warmest leads. So it's just different. I would say you got to, just like in public speaking, you got to know your audience. Who's
Yeah.
your audience? And you have to know where you're at as a company or as an individual. And once you can know that, then you can start to formulate different things. But at the end of the day, I think you have to find what works best. Like you always say, David, like find something that's working. If it's not working, let's make an adjustment, and Phil's also good with that as well. So
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, and I think you brought up something else that just triggered my mind is can you find some strategic relationships and partnerships that would help you build that database? An example is our home and auto insurance business often gets calls about roofs and policies and different things that the roofs are impacting the policy, whether it's getting reapproved or whether it's just getting approved at the beginning. So you might say, all right, let me connect with some home and auto insurance businesses that have databases of customers where you could make a complimentary call on behalf of or in partnership with and say, hey, we're just checking in with everybody who is an access insurance, roof provider, et cetera, et cetera. And we just wanted to give you a complimentary call and see how things are going. How's your roof? How's this? How's that? Brian, I know you got to go soon. Anything you want to say in closing here?
No, I think we covered a lot. I think that these kind of systems, they don't grow overnight, but it's about chipping away. And the fact is that most people that own businesses, most people that are entrepreneurs, they don't have the time to do these things. And you need someone to really be doing it on a daily basis. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of waste of time. And, it's probably not going to be something, depending on what you're selling, right? That you're not going to have the time for it as the owner. You're probably going to have to outsource that. And it is a numbers game. So the more you can do, the more you can do. And I think that's really the key, just getting it out there, because then I'm sure they're doing other advertising also. So it's like, if they saw you on Instagram, they saw you on social media, now you're calling them, or you called them and now they see you, and then now you're calling them back again. Now all of a sudden, it's just name recognition, right? It's I just call all this stuff the Budweiser and Coca-Cola of the 80s and 90s. It's just whatever game you go to, Budweiser and Coca-Cola are there. You're thirsty, I want a Coca-Cola. You're thirsty, I want a Bud. It's just constant brainwashing.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's part of it. It's like it's a numbers touch game. It's like, are you top of mind if and when they do need? And I think some of the lead gen reach out is it's like a small percentage win ratio. And so you got to be prepared for that too. It's not like you start doing lead gen and within a week you've got 10 new clients. Like that's not always the way it works. It takes
Right.
time and consistent marketing, consistent like touch points in all different ways. And then now they, as you said, like they know Coca-Cola and Pepsi when they're thirsty, they're reaching for whichever one has been better programmed into their mind or somebody around
Absolutely.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And look, like when you're cold calling, you're dropping in on someone's environment. You don't know if they have a bad stomach, if they had bad Chinese food last night. You don't know if they walked in on their spouse cheating on them. You don't know what's going on. And so that first no might just be, I'm doing something else today that's way more important than this. So that's why it's about consistency. And as far as cold calling and as far as, self-worth, your value isn't based on this other person saying yes or no. Your value is based on how much value you're giving and how consistent you can be following up so they understand. And I think that the number one thing is sometimes you might have to get a little aggressive. Sometimes you might have to do pattern interrupts. And
Yeah. Right.
because it's like the only way I could say it is it's like when you go, which I haven't been to a store in a very long time, but like when you go to Bloomingdale's, you walk in, the lady says, "Can I help you with anything?" We are pre-programmed to say no. But then
Right.
what happens is you take 5 steps and you're like, I don't know where the shoes are. I don't know where this is. Oh yeah, you know where the shoes are? Of course. But you're just pre-programmed to say no. So you have to know that as a caller, and you have to know that you don't know what's going on. You have to get above this. And you might have to say, like, hold on, give me 1 second. Like, this is important. This could really be something that's useful for you.
Brilliant. Well, Brian, your wisdom and your presence is appreciated as always.
Absolutely.
Sorry you won't be able to see how this interview pans out or turns out, but we'll certainly let you know, or you can watch it online.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys.
Always seeing
Peace and
you,
love.
brother.
All right,
Thank
Brian.
you.
We'll talk soon. All right, so we're still eagerly awaiting the outcome here with with Arthur and Miraflor and Tony. What do you get out of all this conversation? Like if we're kind of summing it up and thinking about lead gen, because it's something we're actively working on and thinking about. What's top of mind for you?
I think, just consistency, being consistent what you're trying to do. I don't like to use always the term numbers game, but at the end of the day, that is a real truth. There is a numbers game to everything, right? Because if you are going to do 10,000, 20,000, it's just what it is, right? So you're always going to have the numbers game. And then within that numbers game, we want to try to have, like he was talking about pattern interrupts or, things like that, or reframes, we call it, where it can move that number at least a little bit higher, right? I always heard back in the day that the sale actually starts when you get the first no, right? Like at the end of the day, everybody is trained to say no at some point. And what I always tell people also is that business owners, and I don't mean this in a rude way, right? It's for all of us, even me as a buyer, right? But we're all very selfish, right? People don't care about product. They always care about relief, right? They care about their business, what their bottleneck is, what their pain point is, what it's costing them not to fix it, what it's costing them to be able to not achieve overcoming it, to reach the goal that they're trying to attain. And they actually want somebody or some company or whatever that is, or product from a company to be able to solve that so they can actually do what they want to do, right? In accordance with their business. So, and it's not a wrong thing. Again, we all do it, but it is about relief. We do got to have a solid product, but if the product at the end of the day could be the greatest product in the world, and if it doesn't meet that person's relief, then it's not going to get sold to that individual. Now, it may sell to somebody else that needs that, but again, each person is individual like that. And you got to keep that in mind also.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and it comes up all the time. And I think it's it's knowing what is most challenging for the other person. We use the word bottleneck a lot, but like when you know what their bottleneck is, or they tell you what their bottleneck is, now you know where they're looking for a solution. And we had our new team member even today. We were doing the initial team introduction, and he said, "So for lead gen, what is the biggest bottleneck right now?" And so he asked me, he asked Tony, he asked the team, and I was like, "That's a perfect question because that's exactly what I ask our clients when we're having a conversation. Like, where's your biggest challenge? Where's your biggest snag? Where's the biggest area within your business that like stuff is getting tied up, or there's stuff that you don't want to do that someone else could easily do?" And when we uncover that for ourselves or for another, that's when like we're actually addressing something that's meaningful to them. So when we are building our plan, who are we targeting? Well, we want to target people that have some of those issues, and then we want to have a message that helps to open up the conversation to address those issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I always thought, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, some of the kind of the steps I used to take was, situation awareness. So you're trying to figure out like what is their pain point. This is after you've kind of built that initial relationship. And so they would tell you what it is. And then, my next question would always be, well, what are you doing right now to basically take care of that bottleneck? And I'd have them answer because they would say, A, B, C, D, E. So it starts to draw out a big thing of how long they've been doing it and how long they've been doing it without an actual situation that covers their problem, right? And then I'd get into more of like the problem awareness is, what is this actually costing you? Is it costing your business by not having these things like taken care of? Like tell me some of the things that it's actually hurting. Is it your family time? Is it your kids' football games? Is it whatever? And then I let them speak with that, which allows them to not only analyze their pain point, but all the things that it actually affects. And what does that do by staying in that situation? If you're to stay in that situation, what's the cost of that? And I would always let them talk and tell me the cost and then get into more of the solution awareness of what does that look like to you if everything was to be taken care of? What would that do to your life? What would that do for your company? And then let them more again speak and sell themselves. I always learned that if a person's selling themselves, you don't even have to do the selling. If you're asking the questions, then they're going to answer exactly what they need, and they're actually going to be triggered in their mind psychologically to be able to sell themselves into the product.
Very good. Well, we're eagerly awaiting the
She must be doing
return.
good.
The
She must
return.
be
Things
doing
must be
good.
going good. When I dipped in, it was a lively conversation, and I was impressed with some of the things she was saying. And Arthur was smiling and saying, "Whoa, like that was a good answer." So we'll see how
Right.
it's panning out. But this is what I'll do. I'm going to go into the breakout room and check on them. We could always edit this out, Tony, but maybe pick a topic and you could do a little monologue for a few minutes, and then I won't even know what it is. And then I'm going to check on them, and then I'll be back in a couple of minutes. So
If you were going to help me, like, hey, if you could call them like this and this, so that would be great. But if there's any problem that I can just help via chat or email, that would be great. But if in terms of calling, that would be, different, because I don't want also to suffer or to put you some like because they don't want that based on my experience. But I don't know on Flex
No,
if
it's
it's still the same.
no, it's true the same.
Oh, okay.
People cut corners, but they prefer if I have my username and you have your username.
Yeah, that's true. That's how it works well on my client as well before. So yeah.
So two
all
more
right,
questions.
I'm jumping in here. How are we doing? You need a little more time? How's it going?
Yeah, I got two more questions, and then she's probably going to nail me to the wall. But I just got two more questions.
All right, I'll let you guys enjoy. I'll be come out when you're ready.
Okay, thanks.
And so storytelling is so powerful when it comes to even sales or when it comes to like Brian, I think gave a short testimony of talking to a person. So storytelling is very powerful as well as it goes with, like I said, communication. And I kind of like using that because of that.
All right, did I catch a little tail end of
A
some
little bit.
story?
I went over storytelling and communication, public speaking. whether
Very
that's
good.
in, before a board or data analytics or anything like that. I was telling a story of Yuri Hassan at Princeton University, and they put a guy in a MRI machine and they had them listen to stories. And so they hear the story and they were looking at all the places that lit up in the brain. And then they put a different person in the MRI and started looking at imagery there, but they had the person speaking the same story. And they saw the same parts of the brain light up. And what they found, they called it neural coupling, that when somebody's actually telling a story, the person that's hearing the story is actually feeling as if they're actually right there in that moment in the story itself. It was pretty interesting. And that's why, everything from TED Talks to, like I said before, a board doing data analytics or whatever, it's the most powerful thing there is.
That's what I think a person's ability to tell an engaging story is like invaluable. I know when I was younger and hadn't worked on my communication, like I couldn't talk for more than a minute or so without just like I'm done. Like I got nothing more to say. I don't know how to tell a story. And then as I've worked now, I can recreate things. And I think with all of the techniques and things that I've learned too, like now sometimes it just happens automatically. But
That's
what I
great.
just something to share, and we're waiting for the culmination of this interview. It
Yeah,
seems to be going well, by the way. So
great.
we'll see how that happens. But um, I'm working now with a number of professionals on their up for promotion at a very high level as a managing director. And so you go into a board conversation, but you have to start the conversation. And that's often what I would work with people on in terms of meetings or sales or pitches and things like that. Some of the most critical moments is the first 30, 60, 90 seconds of a conversation, because
Right.
that's where people decide, do I want to listen to this person or am I going to tune out? And
Right.
get that right, the likelihood of them tuning in for the majority of the conversation is a lot higher. Now you have to kind of maintain the
Yeah.
energy. One of the storytelling introductions we would teach is what we call situation, complication, questions, solution. And like at a simple level, how that can
Yeah.
look is, oh, it's a beautiful sunny day. Situation. What is it? Beautiful sunny day. And as we know, stories have all these kinds of
That's
ups and
it.
downs and arcs.
Stakes.
So yeah, so beautiful sunny day. Complication. Uh-oh, there's a rain cloud coming. It looks really dark. So beautiful sunny day. Uh-oh, complication. Something's come up. And that's usually what happens in a story. It's like things are okay.
Yeah.
Something, some monkey wrench comes in. And then what do people do? What are we going to do? Who's got an umbrella? Do we have to get inside? Like the strategic questions in this intro are questions that the audience, like you're getting inside their head and asking the questions that they would want to know answers to. And if you ask the right questions rhetorically, they're going to say, yeah, I do want to know the answer to that. And
That's
then
right.
solution part. So situation, sunny day, complication, uh-oh, we got a rain cloud. Questions, what are we going to do? Does anybody have an umbrella? Should we do this? Who's got a shelter? Don't worry. I've got it all taken care of. I've got 3 umbrellas in the car. I'll bring them out to you. You're going to stay dry. The real problem is we've got lightning here too. So we probably should get in the car because that's the safest place to be. And I've got a giant SUV that everybody can fit comfortably into, right? But it's interesting because if you don't have a framework and you're
Yeah.
just telling the
Frameworks are so
story,
important.
sometimes people are all over the place. But when you
Yeah.
learn it, it starts to become this structure that you can do automatically.
Natural. Yeah. The one I use is cart. So like a grocery cart for your storytelling. So it's similar to yours, context, which is your situation. A for adversity, right? Which is the problem in yours. R is resolution, how did it overcome the pain point or the adversity? And then T for takeaway. What do we learn out of that? Like, what could we have done to actually get to that resolution beforehand, or what's the things that we could have navigated through that? So that's the one I use a lot. And then start story strong. I always tell people, you always start in the beginning. If you ever look at any movie or like Tom Cruise with Mission Impossible, you always see like he's running or something's happening, people are going after him, you're trying to wonder what's going on. And all of a sudden, like it goes like a minute into the film and then it says Mission Impossible, right? Or you look at other movies and they start very strong. So it's kind of like anything you even see on TED Talks. The most popular TED Talks, you always see some kind of that story where they're like, I was 8 years old and da 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 da, whatever that was. And they start to build kind of like your framework or the framework I use. And they get in there and people are hooked right after that because now they're engaged and it builds anticipation. They want to get to that resolution. They want to get to the things where they can take out what they can take out of it. And
I
so if
think
people don't start strong, yeah, it's like you said, the 30, 60, 90.
I think that one of the biggest things is like also if you're going to tell a story, know your audience. So you want to cater
It's
to
number
what you
one.
said earlier is like what's in it for me. Your audience is saying like why is this valuable to me? So if you're telling a story that has a complete disconnect with anything they care about, it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Yeah,
So even if you have a great story to tell, know how to tell it in relation to something the person that you're talking to cares about. Otherwise, they're just going to tune out and why are you talking right now kind of thing. And it's actually in relationship building, it's a complete break in relationship development because they're like, this person has no idea what I care about. And they're going on and on and on about this thing I have zero interest in. Like, you got to tune in to your
yeah.
audience and realize whether or not they're paying attention. That's what I'll coach some of my
No,
clients
for
on as
sure.
well is like do a check-in, like pause every minute or two and say, did that make sense? Is this resonating with you? What else do you want to hear more about? Because then we'll realize whether or not they're listening, paying attention, caring. And if they're not, okay, well, what can I share more about? Like then they're gonna feed you with the pathway they want to go down.
For sure. And just to kind of hit off what you said too, is how many times we've seen practically in interviews where the company has been like, I don't think they even looked at my website. They didn't know their audience. They didn't even know the audience of the people that were actually interviewing them, you know? And so many places I've heard where they're like, they don't even know what I really do. Or I don't even think they looked at but the first page maybe because they don't know anything. I'm asking them questions, they're not prepared. And yet those that are prepared, I mean, we've been in interviews where people are like, "Oh, I love what you do. Like I didn't even know that you started this when you were in 1965 and it was your dad's place." Or and all of a sudden, every person that's ever done that, we've seen the interviewers that were like, "Wow, that was amazing. I really like that person." And even if they didn't have the skill set, sometimes we haven't seen the full skill set and they still got hired and they worked through it to be able to train them. And at the end of the day, it was always a lot better if they knew something, but it is knowing your audience on all sides.
I think that's one of the things that we come across most often, and the request from clients is like, I need somebody who's a great communicator, somebody who can like communicate to me effectively if I need them to communicate to my team effectively. And so even if their skill sets are right, sometimes the communication is the thing that like has them not get a job, even though they would be a rock star if they were put into the
Right.
role. It's because they're just not attuned to some of the communication. That's not like a slight on people. It's just a reality of a lot of
Right.
people like in school. We learn how to read, we learn how to write, but we often don't learn how to have like great conversations with people or present
Sure.
things well in a compelling way that somebody's going to actually choose to do the thing.
Well, that's what I've read even in multiple books that the number one thing that should be taught in universities is communication. And the number one thing that's least talked about in all your university classes is communication. And it's the thing you're going to use most in
Do we
everything
know
that you
why?
do in
Do we
life.
know why that is? Because that's got to be there's got to be like a reason for it. Is it the thing that people are most like want to avoid, or like why is that not a higher priority? I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to, and there's so much, I'm not even the happiest with like the way universities have, kind of evolved over the last 20 years anyway. I don't really think they don't even teach critical thinking at the end of the day, so I think that's one of the big reasons. But yeah, communication, I don't know why they don't. It's always a small margin, and you see it. And I had even one of my mentors, he was like, even in business, when you're going to MBA, like at the end of the day, they don't even teach you like the things that you're actually going to use, right? I mean, you look at like a Mark Zuckerberg, you look at all these people that build massive companies that never even had an MBA, right? And the things that they actually implemented are very far and few. Now, I'm not talking about P&Ls and things like that. Obviously, you do got to have some kind of framework for the basics, but The things
I,
that
I,
when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's lost these days from an app, practical matter.
Hi, Miraflor. How are you?
Oh,
Yeah,
he's
all
back
good.
in. I got him. There we go.
Thank-
All right,
I think
Arthur's
he'll live. Yeah, I think.
he's coming back. How
Oh,
how was the
Yeah.
conversation?
whole meeting.
What happened, Arthur? We lost you.
I left the room and I left the meeting. I clicked on the wrong box.
All right. Well, I do have to end this in 4 minutes. Do you want to give
Perfect.
us a little flavor of how the conversation went?
Yes, it was great. So the flavor, I'll let Mira speak first because she was hard on me, but she had mercy on me.
All right, Mira, how was the conversation for you?
Everything's good. All is being answered, and yeah, I all I can say is very good, and I'm thank you so much for having me today and get interviewed. So yeah.
Well, good to have you. Arthur,
So from
what
my
about you?
end, well, thanks to you, David, and other experiences, uh, I've learned that how people carry themselves in person shows up in terms of how they bring themselves into work. So I found that Mira had great energy, and that tends to translate in terms of how you go about your life too, whether
Yeah,
you're half checked out or you're fully engaged. And she had some excellent questions for me, which I thought was really insightful in terms of she's looking for the right fit as well.
that's
Yeah,
great.
well, that's good. Mira, is Arthur a good fit for you? I mean, he's tough. He's a tough cookie,
Yeah, I think so. He is.
but he's a good fit for you. You'd enjoy working with him.
Yes, of course.
All right, very good. Arthur, you gonna say something? Anything else?
Well, we started off the call and I found out she has an 11 and 9-year-old. I have an 11 and 8-year-old,
Wow,
and they both already met Mira. So it was very interesting how
that's
the
awesome.
call began with her kids and it ended with my kids.
That's great.
Amazing, amazing. Let's go, Julie. Julie, what do you got? Anything? How you were in the conversation? Any takeaways for you?
Yeah, actually, I like the conversation. Like it's very light. The mood was very like, very comfortable. Both are very comfortable, and they actually have both, similarities. Um, and also I like Mira's. You can really tell that Mira has a long experience when it comes to what um Arthur is looking for, and she knows the process, she knows the tools, and she was able to provide um I think she was able to provide a great answer with Arthur example scenarios. So I really love it doesn't feel like it's an interview, so it's more like a conversation. So I like the mood, and I guess that's it.
That's
Brilliant.
great.
All right. Well, unfortunately, I do have to wrap this conversation up. So more to come on all of this.
Yes.
But thank you all for being here. And Arthur, we'll follow up with you. Miraflor, we'll follow up with you. Any final comments? Miraflor, what do you got?
I think all good and it's perfect.
All good and perfect. Arthur, anything for you?
Thank you for showing your adventurous side. I think you brought a lot of energy into the conversation for all of us.
Yeah,
Yes.
this
Thank you
has
so
been fun.
much.
This wasn't expected, and but we'll see how it all plays out. We'll send you the recording. And Tony, any final comments for you?
No, I'm so
Yeah.
happy you guys had a great conversation, and I look forward to all the great things that are going to happen between your partnership.
All right, brilliant. If somebody did tune into this conversation, thank you for being here, and we'll talk soon. Have a great day.
Bye,
Yeah.
everybody.
Bye.
Take care.